We will be starting with the second part of the chapter Heat. The topic to be covered is the different types of thermometers and their uses. We would be studying about three types of thermometers. First being the clinical thermometer. Next is the laboratory thermometer. And lastly, the maximum minimum thermometer.
Clinical thermometer. In this module, you will learn about a clinical thermometer. Your forehead feels warm. You immediately suspect a fever. To be sure, however, you need to measure your exact body temperature. How would you do that? Well, with the help of a clinical thermometer, also called a doctor's thermometer. A clinical thermometer is usually made of glass and consists of a mercury-filled bulb inside at one of its ends and a fine capillary tube that looks like a thread running from the bulb to its other end. There is a small constriction in the neck close to the bulb. A clinical thermometer can measure temperature ranging from 35 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit to 108 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a pretty small range. You can get the temperature by reading the scale inscribed on the side of the thermometer. Let us now see how a clinical thermometer works. A clinical thermometer is usually placed inside the mouth for measuring body temperature. Because of the body heat, the mercury inside the bulb heats up, expands, and rises to a certain level in the capillary tube through the constriction. The new level to which the mercury rises indicates the exact body temperature. You may be wondering if the reading changes on removing the thermometer from the mouth. Well, it does not. The constriction prevents the mercury from flowing back into the bulb. You can also say that the mercury column breaks at the constriction and is unable to return to the bulb, thus remaining stationary in the tube. To reset the thermometer, you need to swing it sharply many times so as to make the mercury column return to the bulb. Why do you think mercury is used in a clinical thermometer? Mercury is used in a clinical thermometer as well as other thermometers for a number of reasons. First, mercury is a metal and thus it is a good conductor of heat. It starts to expand instantly on placing the thermometer inside the mouth. The expansion can be seen as a rising thread of mercury. Second, mercury remains a liquid at temperatures ranging from minus 39 degrees Celsius to 357 degrees Celsius. Hence, it can serve to measure a wide range of temperatures. At last, mercury does not stick to glass. Though used Mercury-based thermometers are considered risky. This is because mercury is poisonous. Mercury-based clinical thermometers have largely been replaced nowadays with electronic digital thermometers or scanner thermometers.
How to use a clinical thermometer? The thermometer must be washed preferably with an antiseptic lotion like Dettol or Spirit, or at least with clean water and dried with a clean cloth. Thermometer should be given soft 2 to 3 jerks to bring the mercury in the capillary below 37 degrees Celsius. Thermometer should not hit any object while giving the jerk, otherwise the bulb will break. Note the mercury reading in proper light. Mercury is poisonous metal, so make sure it does not break in the mouth while taking the temperature, or measure the temperature underarms. If mercury spills by accident, then it can be picked up by kneaded wheat dough by rolling it over the mercury.
Laboratory thermometers. Different types of thermometers are used for different purposes. In order to measure the temperature of other objects, apart from the human body, we use a special kind of thermometer called a laboratory thermometer. These thermometers look pretty similar to the clinical thermometers that we come across in our daily life. However, if we look carefully at the laboratory thermometer, we will see that the range of the laboratory thermometer is much larger than that of the clinical thermometer. The range of the laboratory thermometer is generally between -10 degrees Celsius and 110 degrees Celsius. There are some special precautions which need to be taken care of when using a laboratory thermometer. A laboratory thermometer should always be kept upright and not tilted when measuring the temperature. Also, the bulb should be surrounded from all sides by the substance of which the thermometer is to be measured. The bulb should not touch the surface of the container at any point of time. This is because the level of mercury changes when the bulb of the thermometer is brought in contact with the container or any other object. Observe a kink near the bulb of the thermometer. This prevents the mercury level from falling on its own.
Precautions to be taken while reading a laboratory thermometer. While we take a reading with clinical thermometer, the bulb of the thermometer should be in proper contact of object whose temperature is to be measured. But in case of a laboratory thermometer, for example, for taking temperature of boiling water in a beaker, the thermometer has to be immersed in water and not touch the side of the beaker. The reading of the temperature should be taken without removing the thermometer from its position. The eye of the observer should be at the same vertical level as that of the mercury in the capillary tube. The thermometer should not be used to measure the temperature below its lowest marking or above its highest marking. What is the difference between clinical and laboratory thermometer? A clinical thermometer is shorter than laboratory thermometer. A laboratory thermometer is much longer than the clinical thermometer. Clinical thermometer is removed from the body to read the temperature, whereas the laboratory thermometer is read while its bulb is in close contact with the object. Capillary of clinical thermometer has a kink just above its bulb, whereas the laboratory thermometer has got a straight capillary. The range of clinical thermometer is from 35 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius, whereas the range of laboratory thermometer is from -10 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. Clinical thermometer is used to measure body temperature of humans and animals. Laboratory thermometer is used to measure the temperature of chemical reactions and laboratory processes.
The maximum and minimum temperatures of the previous day reported in weather reports are measured by a thermometer called the maximum minimum thermometer.
Summary of what we learned today. There are three types of thermometers, namely clinical thermometer, laboratory thermometer, and maximum minimum thermometer. Clinical thermometers are of two types, mercury based clinical thermometer and digital clinical thermometer. Since mercury is poisonous, the earlier mercury based clinical thermometer is being replaced by digital clinical thermometer. Clinical thermometer is used for measuring the body temperature. Laboratory thermometers are generally used for lab purposes. Maximum minimum thermometer is used for measuring the maximum and minimum temperature of the day. We saw the difference between clinical thermometer and laboratory thermometer. The necessary precautions to be taken while reading a thermometer was mentioned.